Welcome to Puzzling Company, your home for at-home puzzles and mysteries. Here are your hosts, Jared and Zach.
All right, everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Puzzling Company. I am Jared, and with me always...
It's Zach.
Oh, Zach, we're not alone anymore, my friend.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it a tryout for your position per se, but I just thought we'd have some new flavor, and if they are a little more flavorful than you, maybe we'll keep them around, and we'll put you in the developmental league.
What? We didn't talk about this.
That's how these things work. But I'm just kidding. I could never replace you. I'm more worried about you replacing me.
I'm going to replace you
so
fast.
Today we're talking about Box One, and we're talking about Box One with our friends David and Lisa over at Room Escape Artists.
That's actually really cool.
I know. They've been in the game for a long time. We really respect their opinion, and we were super excited to have them on the show. So we're going to do our first section without them. We're going to give our opinion on the game, and then we're going to bring them in for a fun second and third section.
I'm excited.
Let's get it started.
All right, Jared, I got to cut out a little early today. I have an interview.
An interview? You didn't tell me about that. Where at?
With Soup.
Oh, nice. I've heard really great things about the Soup Shed off of I-24. So come on down to the Soup Shed.
No, Jared. Soup is a society for the observation of unknown phenomena. They actually sent me my first case as a test. Take a look at this folder.
Why is this folder full of pictures of me?
Well, they are all about documenting the weird and bizarre. If you'd like a chance to join Soup, head on over to crackanutmysteries.com.
How did they get this picture of me in the shower? All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. As you know, we are talking about Box One today. Box One is a game by Neil Patrick Harris, the legendary actor, as well as Theory 11, the company that helped produce the game. It was a different take, in my opinion. And honestly, this is one of the few games that is mass market and has a lot of buzz in the puzzling community as well.
Yeah.
For some of the different angles that it took on a traditional game.
Yeah, it's blowing up like mad.
Yeah, people, I would say in the last 6 months, this is probably the most talked about game in the circles that we're a part of.
Yeah, it's very popular.
So we always do one episode every month that is a new game feature, and that is what we have decided to spend the month of March opening up with.
Yeah.
And I don't think we could have picked a better game because it was a really good time. But in this section, as always, we talk about the things that we really loved about the game. And then we kind of chart into waters of what could have the game done a little bit better, just a little constructive criticism. So Zach, why don't you open us up talking about Box One? What did we really love and like about this game?
Ooh, there's a lot to talk about. If I had to pick anything to start off with, though, I would say that the narrative is simple. And it was really well done. So what I mean by that is the narrative doesn't try to take itself way too serious. It's actually a very comedic narrative, but it's well done. It's executed pretty solidly across the whole experience. The beginning's really fun. When you find out what's kind of truly going on with the game as it unfolds, literally in front of you, it gets quite funny at moments. But the narrative was well done overall.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you said it well. It didn't take itself too seriously, and it was just one of those ones that you just kind of had a smile as you were going through the narrative and figuring out, because they do a really good job of at the onset you don't really know what's going on.
It also reminds me of watching other shows that Neil Patrick Harris has been on, that kind of comedy. So watching How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
Yep, the one we both watch a lot. It just feels like Barney is there, and I'm watching him trying to set up this game for me. But yeah, it does it well.
Yeah, and I think the lesson here for people out there is it wasn't complex.
Simple is key.
Simple. It flowed really well. You'll see in our later sections we had some people with some different thoughts on the narrative aspects, but for the most part, it got out of its own way, and it was just funny.
Yeah.
I can't remember a lot of other stories that we've covered where you would say that was a really funny story, or
Mhm.
it presented itself very professionally. Like the touch and feel of this game alone
Yeah.
is really high quality for a mass market game,
Yeah, it
in
definitely
my
is.
opinion. But then it really drove that home well with a well executed, simple, fun, goofy story.
Mhm.
Depending on whose perspective in the story you're going to take.
That's true. Yes, very
for
much so.
for our protagonist, not the ideal situation you ever want to find yourself in.
True.
Yes, but play the game. If you haven't played the game, play the game to know what we're talking about. What else, Zach? What really stood out to us besides the story?
Ooh. There's a few other things. I think the reveals and the aha moments that happen in the game.
100%.
There's one pretty early on in the game that very much tells you the game you are playing is not what it seems. And then there are a few aha moments near the end as well, and kind of throughout the entire experience. All very well done. The one at the beginning made me freak out the most when I played it, right? Because this, just a reminder, this game is made for one player.
Correct. That's a really good point that we haven't talked about yet.
The game was literally designed as a game to play by yourself. And there are a few times in this game that I went, oh, like we were playing and I was like, okay, this is an interesting game. There's not much, like there's things going on, but I'm not sure how to feel yet. And then the first big event happens where I go, oh, that's not what I expected. And then the next one happens when you start finding out more about the narrative. I go, oh, I didn't expect that either. And then it keeps going and little more aha moments happen. And in the end you go, oh, okay, this all added up well. So the reveals and those little moments where you felt satisfaction from seeing what evolved felt quite good.
And there were an impressive amount of those moments in the game. And I think that's really where you see the marriage between Neil Patrick Harris, who does kind of have a magic background as well.
Yes.
And Theory 11, that's what their bread and butter is.
Yes.
Is this game more than anything felt like it took a lot of risks.
It did.
And a lot of them, in my opinion, paid off. And you're left with, in my opinion, I think what this game does better than anything is we're always talking escape rooms because we know a lot of people can relate to that as well. But this felt more like the aha you get from like a secret door or a new room. Like you got that over and over and over again in this game and in different ways. And you were just like, how much can they hide?
Yeah.
How much can they hide in this game? It was truly, truly, truly impressive. And I think some of the ones for people who have played this game that really stick out, we would have all be in agreement where it was just like, I didn't see that coming. Because one of the interesting aspects, the way Zach and I played this game, is we decided to play it separately and compare notes.
Yeah.
And Zach played it first.
I did.
And then it was really funny because Zach was in the room for, I think, the entire time that I played the game.
Yes.
And it was really funny to watch Zach's reaction when I felt like I was coming up on like a big reveal. Like he would just get kind of coy and smiley. And then he got a big smile when I would find a reveal. And he was just like, oh, just wait. Like there's more coming. And I think it was also interesting for Zach watching that game to see how I would attack things differently than he did.
Yes.
And also what I did differently. So as David and Lisa will tell you, they played the game together. But I think it would also be really fun if for our listeners out there, have one person play the game first and then watch the other person play it. Maybe even kind of act like a de facto GM that wasn't maybe wanted or unwanted in that space.
Yeah.
But it's worth it because for us, because we've been doing escape rooms for 5-6 years now, the most fun part of the games are, one, the things that you don't expect that groups do that are crazy. But the other thing is just watching them enjoy aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
Finding that secret thing, doing that thing, and then getting that look of like, whoa, I was not expecting that. This game, more than any other game we've ever played or seen, just capitalized so hard on that. And and in my opinion, it is that magic theory or magic formula.
Yeah.
Like the reveal, the payoff is more so in the things that you find in this game than necessarily the puzzles that you solve. Yeah. You think that's a fair thing?
I think it's a perfect example to be a magic trick. I mean, I think some of it is it shows you something and then it goes, watch this. And then you do something else to it and boom, it becomes something completely different. And you go, okay, I didn't get how I did that, or you're surprised and you look back and you go, okay, I get how they did that. but it did it so well that I felt like it was a big surprise to me to see
Yes.
that reveal.
And that was exciting because I think coming from the standpoint that Zach and I are always coming from, which is we'd like to see more people play this game.
Yeah.
This is a game I'm super comfortable being with out in the mass market.
Yeah.
Like this isn't probably the first game that I would have people play, but it
Mhm.
is definitely one where if I wanted to intro them just into the genre and show them the fun and the joy that comes with these type of games. Yeah, throw this game out there. They'll love this. It has somebody who is more well known amongst many communities leading the
Yes.
charge in that. So I think this was a win in general for the community. What else? What was our final thing that we really liked about this, Zach?
Ooh, okay. I think the last thing we really liked a lot was the physical and digital components. There's a lot of physical tangibility to this game, tons to be exact, and all of it is produced very well. I mean, obviously, Theory 11 and Neil Patrick Harris made a very solid game. All the components felt really good. None of it felt like cheap. If you know what I mean, there's a lot to it. It all played off each other quite well. The digital component being the interface you kind of watch some videos through and get some of the narrative as well as kind of a solving part for later part of the game. I thought was pretty well done overall. Now there are probably little critiques, very small, but overall I think it was for a mass market game that made it pretty simple for most people. I think it did it well.
It was clean.
Yeah.
Like the physical components were higher grade than I was expecting. The digital was really clean as well. And in talking with other creators, the one thing, and we even had a reviewer leave us a review about this, they were wondering, how did they pack all of that digital physical stuff in there and then price this thing at $29
It
at
is pretty
Target?
nuts.
Like, there's like, I would even say there's a really cool keepsake in there
There's
that if you want to pull out and use, like it's fantastic. And it is, they gave you your bang for your buck in this game, hands down. And they did it through a lot of different means. And I think what people really loved so much about this game is we're talking about all of them, is it took us all by surprise.
Yeah.
Right? You see this game, box one, you're coming out, you play it by yourself. And it capitalized on, I think, a lot of the misperception that people had. The thing going the other way now is this is a very hyped game.
Yeah.
So I think that brings us well into talking about the second portion of this section, which is where did we feel like there was room for growth? What would you say to that in this game? Because this is so far a much beloved game. Where do you feel like this could grow, Zach?
Sure. So the few things I thought about this game was gating.
Oh, preach.
Gating was very, very used in this game. Specifically, there is a few points where
Well, I would argue it wasn't used well enough in this game.
True. Sorry, that's what I mean. Sorry. Gating is not used well.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is that you are able to look around and find things. Okay, if you play a lot of these types of games, I'll be very clear. You can find things very quickly that you're not supposed to find yet.
Correct.
You are not, like, it is a game that if you start actively looking like if you were playing an escape room and searching every corner,
you will ruin this game.
You will ruin the game very quickly.
Now, was there, I want to be fair, was there any direction earlier in the game that would hint us to not just go rummaging through?
Correct. There are direct instructions on what you should start on and what to follow.
So then I think the question is, why are we still saying that this is a dislike, even if maybe we had some instruction on the front end?
Sure. I think the issue is some of it you can find without trying.
Right on, man. Yeah.
Now some of it, if I went out of my way and tried to, like, let's say destroy the box and find a hint, I'm going to find it, right? If they did that. The issue with this was, like, I opened up the first thing and without spoiling it or saying anything, there's something else involved with something else you get very early on. And actually, Jared did this. Jared found part of the ending.
I beat the game in 5 minutes.
Yeah, technically, Jared found the ending without. And when I saw that, I went, Jared, you're not supposed to have that. And he didn't mean to. It just accidentally came, like, a part of the game that you need later kind of showed up to him without him, like, purposely doing it.
I guarantee you, I hold the record for beating this game.
That's true. You probably do. Then we just had a few moments like that where it was just like, you looked at it and you went, you act, like I said, that one was a perfect example of, like, a pure accident.
Yes.
But there are other moments where if you really thought about it, you're like, that looks weird. And if you messed with it by a little bit, you could skip things or
Yeah.
find things you weren't supposed to.
Well, here's why to me this was a tad frustrating, because I'll give a couple different examples. It's people who are going to play this game are curious.
Yes, very much so.
And what this game asks you to do is almost be patient with your curiosity, or
It's really, yeah.
or to self-gate yourself.
And it's really weird because the excitement level and the mystery starts to really amp.
Yes.
And it's that whole weird thing where the game goes, hey, I just introduced a whole new element to this game and I'm making you think what the heck is going on. But I want you to do this one step at a time and like really don't look at anything else when it's
Right.
all in front of you. And you go, that's not how it feels.
And I want to give them a little bit of grace, because that's the world this was born into, is
Yes.
people doing it. And I understand that there is, I don't want to completely tear down the notion of self-gating, right? Because
Sure.
we play plenty of other games that say, don't open this envelope until
Yeah.
X. But there wasn't anything like that in this game. It was all in very physical spaces.
Yes.
If you're an adept player, you were already like wanting to dig into things. And it was really, I think it was one of the weakest points of the game,
Mhm.
because in essence, another analogy I'll use is it was like a magic trick that you could interact with, where the magician was like, no, don't look under that.
Yep.
Like, no, close, like,
Close your eyes.
like, and good magicians know how to handle a crowd well, but when you're turning the trick completely over to the crowd, they've got to be able to interact with it, mess with it, do everything in their power they can, and not mess up the trick.
Yes.
And that did not hold true for this game.
True.
I feel like a lot of people who are like, this is the greatest game of all time, played it flaw-free.
Yeah, that's true.
And just were either lucky or just internally more patient and read the rules in a way that a lot of the rest of us didn't.
Sure.
So the reveals were great, but I feel like for a lot of listeners out there, they were ruined either by accident or just by natural curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think if they could figure out a way to eliminate that, that moves this game, in my opinion, from a good game to just an unreal game.
Yeah.
Like, how in the world did they pack all of that in?
Sure.
Now, the other thing that I'm going to bring up here, I feel like this may be more of a matter of opinion, but there is a section of this game, and I'm not going to call this a spoiler because I feel like people deserve to know this on the front end. I think it'll help the experience knowing this.
Sure.
There is a point in the game that you have to wait 24 hours to complete.
Yes, the game it is not a game you can play in one sitting.
No, and that was a little frustrating for me.
Yeah, Jared will tell you the same. I think we both had this opinion when we played it. I was intrigued the first time when I told Jared, like, hey, I actually can't complete. I have to wait till the next day. And I thought that was interesting.
And I was like, what are, and I kept asking him, I was like,
but then when I played it, my issue was when we played it, I realized, I was like, that didn't need to be there. Like, there was no reason to wait 24 hours for it. Like, I mean, it was interesting because it made sense in the narrative, like why you have to wait. Like, so we don't want to spoil that for you, why that is, but it felt unnecessary.
I agree. It didn't seem, I understand that it was trying to drive home some more immersive nature of the game in terms of the storytelling. But I did not, this is just me personally, I did not personally enjoying it, especially since it felt like more of the content was on the front end as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, the ending is, so I don't want to spoil anything, but it very much is the first part of the game that you complete without waiting 24 hours is a majority of the game. The part after the 24 hours
potentially can be shorter if you've, I'm going to say, found other things.
If you've played, like for us, the second part of the game was really quick compared to the first part.
All in all, though, this is I would call it a cool game.
Yes, it's very well done.
It's not the perfect narrative game. It's not the perfect puzzle game, but it does something no other game is trying to do right now. And that is admirable, and that pushes innovation, and I really support them for that.
No, I think it being a one-player experience that is very top-notch for the price you pay.
Yes.
And all that you get to do in it is very much worth it. And it
must play. Easy must play.
You know, obviously, like any game, there can be critiques, though.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap us up for our first section. We're super excited now. Puzzle to the People is next. And we're bringing in our good friends, David and Lisa, to chat it up and talk about the reviews.
Whoop, whoop.
Stay tuned.
Solve puzzles, write reviews, win prizes. It's time for Puzzles to the People.
I'm over it.
Over what?
Christmas. people can't let this holiday go, man. I'm still receiving Christmas-themed mail. Look at this red envelope I got yesterday.
Jared, you are so uncultured.
Uncultured? Because I refuse to celebrate Christmas year-round?
No, you're uncultured because one, that color is scarlet, not red. And two, because that envelope is jammed packed with puzzles and mysteries. Scarlet envelope features escape room style experiences that you may receive every month in the mail. Each episode features a different story, but all their experiences are tied together in a bigger narrative that you are trying to unravel.
I think I could get down with Christmas all year.
Well, head on over to scarletenvelope.ca to start your adventures today.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're so hyped right now. I don't think you guys understand how excited we are to have, because really these are our first guests.
Yes, they very much are.
And I don't think we could pick two better people. With us are David and Lisa. Don't say Spira. That's a mistake.
That is a mistake.
Say Spira.
Yes.
I think they've heard them say before, it's like Spyro the Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the route you want to go. But we're super excited to have you guys. Thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you so much for having us. We're honored to be your first official guest, and we've been loving the podcast so far, so we're happy to be a part of it.
Well, thanks
Yeah,
for listening
thank
to
you.
it. That means a lot. I joked with Zach earlier, earlier in the episode that we were actually auditioning new people for his part.
Yeah.
He didn't take too kindly to that, but we're
little
super
upset.
excited. If you don't know David and Lisa, they have a long-running review blog called Room Escape Artist.
Yes.
If you're not already on there, I don't really know what you're doing with your life, but you should definitely check that out, roomescapeartist.com. And they also have a brand new podcast out.
What?
Yes, super exciting stuff. I'm already forgetting what the name is, but I know you won't.
Reality Escape Pod.
That's why I love having you on.
I know you do. It's
It
okay.
is the Reality Escape Pod. It is available where all of your podcasts are. And this is a brand new. So you guys, please tell us what this is all about, because we want our listeners to hear about this as well.
So the Reality Escape Pod is a brand new project. It's kind of been in the works for like 3 years. I just kept kicking the can down the road, but it's something I've really wanted to do.
Just so many projects.
Yeah. My co-host is not Lisa.
What?
I know.
We were actually hoping it was going to be Lisa and insert the blank, but we'll still listen. We're not that disappointed.
Yeah, we're creating content with other people. But yeah, so my co-host is PG Law, who hosted the Q&As at the convention that we hosted this past summer, the Reality Escape Convention.
Which was the bomb.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
She is also a 2-time player of Survivor and a diehard escape room and immersive theater and gaming consumer. So we've gotten to know each other over the last year and just decided, you know what? This is the right duo to launch a podcast.
She was kind of over. She was the master of ceremony. Or no, was she? I remember she was very frequently on Recon.
She was the Q&A host of Recon, which meant at the end of every talk, she showed up with the presenter and asked them a whole bunch of things. She took questions from the audience, and she got to know everybody who gave a talk at Recon, and she was great. She was on all day.
Well, we can't wait. Tell us a little bit about the format of what you're going to be talking about.
Yeah, so it's a interview show. Episode 0 is just PG and I getting to know each other. But after that, the focus is entirely on interviews, where we're bringing in creators from all over the gaming and immersive gaming world. So the first guest that we have on is going to be Alon Lee from Exploding Kittens.
Ooh.
Nice.
That's actually really cool.
Alon has done everything. He's actually, and I didn't know this until I was doing my background research on him, and that's one of the things here is I really stalk our guests, and I do my best to ask them questions that they haven't been asked 1,000 times, because we do a lot of media, we do a lot of podcasts, and we find we're always answering a lot of the same questions. So what I'm trying to do is, I know how delighted I am when someone asks me a question that I knew they really had to do their homework and put a lot of thought into. So that's the experience that I'm trying to give the guests. That's what PG and I are doing. But Alon Lee, he is one of the co-creators of the ARG format. The format didn't exist until him and a few of the people he was working with birthed the concept into the world.
That's
which
crazy.
blew my mind.
Yeah, that is wild. I'm secretly hoping though, not out of a disparity to your new podcast, but that you dig a little too deep once and just say something that just, oh yeah, so tell me about your sister's kid and that softball game I was at last week.
Oh no.
And they're like, I'm sorry? Like I'm really hoping that's the amount of research that goes into it and we just get some awkward nice eruptions at some point.
I try to keep it professional, but some of these people are just really interesting.
I get it. I think that's going to be great. Well, we want to let everybody know we will actively be tuning in that. That is a must for your podcast rotation.
Yes.
And I think it's really cool because it is, I hope that it is a uniting opportunity for all of these different adjacent worlds that we exist in.
Yeah.
That's precisely the goal. The reason why this isn't just an escape room podcast is that we want to use it as sort of a Trojan horse to go and sneak all of these people from adjacent spaces into the escape room and puzzling worlds. Because I think that if you're a video gamer or a tabletop gamer or an RPG player or an immersive theater goer, there's a really good chance that you're going to like the stuff that the escape room world and also the tabletop escape room world. I think that they have a lot to offer these communities. But I just don't think that these communities realize that it's there for them.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, even if I may be so bold to give an example, like I because of you, I would have never have heard of the In and of Itself on Hulu. I saw that on y'all's blog. I watched that, and that was some powerful stuff. I don't want to go down a tangent, but I think that's a great example. I never would have known that was there if you weren't doing the work of bringing all those things together.
Thank you. Yeah, if you can watch In and of Itself and not feel like profound feelings, I would suggest consulting a doctor.
I made the mistake of watching it by myself and then forcing people in my circle to go watch it just so I could debrief it. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so crazy. Well, these are two people that we could go down an infinite number of tangents with.
Yes.
And that's obviously going to be a struggle for us on our show today.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the juicy questions that we have throughout the show. But I want to go ahead and bring us into talking about our second section where, for those of us that listen to us regularly, you know, this is where we read people's reviews. We try really hard to go out into our community and ask people what they think about the game because we are firm believers that nobody wants to hear from us all of the time.
That's
Maybe
true.
even some of the time. I'm not really sure. I'm sure there's a great crowd out there that just skips to the second section, skips our first part and comes into this. But we're going to do something different today. We're not going to say anything except read the reviews. And we have asked David and Lisa to take our roles, and we're going to hear purely from them today.
Oh,
how do you feel about that?
To be honest, I'm still a little upset you're trying to replace me. But I mean, these are two great candidates, so we'll have to see how they do.
So we have already talked about this before we started recording. The role of Zach today will be played by David. So we're going to throw the question. And I'm honored that Lisa is playing me. Like that I was hoping it would go that route. Because if I had to pick one, I think people know who I would pick.
I would pick David. But,
clearly.
We worked it out well.
If you could only have one, who would you take?
Yeah, ready? I'm going to take David.
Lisa.
That's
and I think that should be a poll on Room Escape Artists one day.
David or Lisa?
David or Lisa.
Oh, no.
Island in the Caribbean, you can only take one of them. Who do you take with you?
Oh, okay.
Just so we know, these are we've done it a couple different ways, but these are direct reviews from creators and mostly enthusiasts. This is not stuff that we pull from the general audience. We're actually pulling Amazon reviews for our next episode where we have the ladies from Wild Optimists on.
Yes.
And reading Amazon reviews just because I thought that would be fun since it was a mass market game. But I want us to jump right in. And like I said, David, we're going to throw it to you first. I'll read a review, and it's, do you agree with what they're saying or not? And feel free to agree with different segments and disagree with part of it. But we try to give you a good variety of what people said. So this first one is actually from a creator that we are both familiar with, and I think we both really enjoy. This is from Angela from Crack-A-Nut Mysteries. Yes. And I think we'd all agree she's the bomb.
I mean, she's box one Oprah right now.
She is, yes.
Yeah.
That's so true. Europe loves Angela right now
Yes.
because Box One is there because of her.
Yes, very much so.
That's so true.
I think she's single-handedly refunding the U.S. postal system.
I think so. And so much so that I think I saw an announcement recently to where they're going to start shipping this game. I think they saw a business opportunity that Angela was funding, and they're like, okay, this game is going more worldwide than it's been.
We sent Theory 11 because we've been in communication with them. We had actually sent them a message saying, hey, this is going on. Like, there are people who are actively like pirating the game to like buying it to go and sell it over the border. Like, you got to figure out a way to do this.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did, because I think we are both in agreement. We want people to play good games. Like,
Yes.
we want this to go as far as we can. We want to see this community grow, and it's exciting. But let's see how in sync with Angela you guys are. Here is what she said. She said, Box One was an absolutely brilliant journey from beginning to end. I have highly recommended it to everyone. I really hope that Neil Patrick Harris and Theory 11 plan on releasing something similar down the road, but I just can't imagine how they could top Box One. David, thoughts to you first.
Yes.
Fair enough.
It's definitely fair. So
I think journey is a great word for Box One. So, of all the words to pull out of that review right there, I think that's the unexpected word for a tabletop escape game, but it captures it brilliantly.
I like it.
Yeah.
Enough said.
I like it.
Enough said. All right. Zach, you want to go in with question number 2? Or I think all of the less flattering reviews are number 2. I don't want people to like subconsciously think like, oh, he's reading all the bad ones. So I'll save you for 3 and 4, and I'll read 1 and 2.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, this is a review from Princess Bride 42.
Ooh.
They said, I thought the game emphasized the awesomeness of Neil Patrick Harris way more than necessary. I found most of the puzzle surprises before instructed. I found the website to be difficult to navigate, even when I knew where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. Based on the hype, I was very underwhelmed. I will say the quality of the materials was nice, but it was way too smug for me.
Okay. So first of all, I do think that hype can murder an experience. So I don't want to take away from what this person is saying, because hype, and we've experienced this with games where people have been like, oh, you absolutely have to play this. It's the greatest game in the world. Why haven't you played it already? And then you play it and you're like, it was good, but it would have been better if you had not told me anything about it. So I can see that. We didn't have a lot of those challenges. I also think that, I don't know, I thought that for the most part, it didn't cast Neil Patrick Harris in the most positive light. It really only did at the very, very end. But for the most part, he comes across pretty cruel, which I think is the joke. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you're reading that as awesome the entire way, then maybe your perception of reality is slightly warped, because he was not being awesome to his designer.
We joked about that earlier. We were like, the protagonist in this game really goes through a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
And then it just seems, well, Lisa, what are you thinking?
Well, I'll dig into the other part of that comment, which was the comment about finding things too early. And that was something that we experienced. And it's something that has plagued the tabletop escape room market, because you as a player don't know whether you're supposed to approach a game by following instructions and not touching anything until you're told to, or whether you're going to fail at the game if you don't dig really hard and look for all of the secrets that might be in that box. And so because of that sort of expectation setting issue, if you're used to the kind of games where you have to dig, then that's going to happen to you in Box One. And if you don't realize very quickly that you should be playing this differently, then that's going to negatively impact your experience.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, we very much talked about that. It was definitely when Jared played it. Luckily, I got to play it first, and I didn't have that much of that happen to me. But specifically when Jared played it, I wanted to watch him do it, which was fun. But he opened
weird voyeuristic stuff going on in our office.
Okay. No, but he opened up one of the very first things and instantly found something that you get near the end. And I went, "Oh no, you don't need that. Please put it away." And it just like naturally happened. Like he wasn't searching super hard. It just appeared to him. And
So I will tell
unfortunately,
you that thing that you found that you needed near the end has been changed since the early production of. So we had the copy that was the same as your copy, and we made the same mistake. And David put that into his review. And Theory 11 told us that in a future, I don't know the words.
Future run
of the game, they fixed that because it was happening a lot to a lot of people. And so later versions, it is harder to make that mistake.
That's encouraging.
That's nice to hear.
There is, I can send you a link to the reset video that shows the new reset so you can see what changed.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be awesome. Because I do think that was something that plagued a lot of people.
Yeah.
Zach, why don't you hit him up with question number 3?
Ooh, dude, this is a great reviewer. It comes from Soccer Mama. Dude, okay, here's the thing. These are my questions I always have to ask, right? Is she like a mom whose kids play soccer, or is she like a soccer mom where she goes out there and she plays? Like she has like a cool like little like sign on the back of her, her jersey. She runs around, she scores all the time.
I happen to know for a fact this is Mia Hamm.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Although that I don't know that, but that would be really great. Mia, if you're out there, please play more puzzle games and let's have a conversation.
That'd be great. But the comment says, really enjoyed all the physical elements of the game. Loved the twists and turns. So, David, what do you think?
I think that there are a couple of props in this game that really stand out. With all of the games that Lisa and I play, we don't keep most of them. We don't keep much of anything from any of them, to be honest. The games that are replayable or repackageable, we give away. And the games that aren't, we throw away pretty much everything. We recycle what we can and occasionally keep something that is really special. This game has a lot of things that we kept. So yeah, they picked their props right. There's not tons of them, but the ones that they put in there had meaning and were really cool.
Lisa, what do you think?
I agree with that. There's one particular prop in this game that I love so much. I think it's here, actually.
Oh, let's see it. Yes, that is a good one.
Let me tell you that the reason that it's here is because we talk about this prop. So we were on a different call in this room and we got it and brought it up here to show it to someone. So it's that cool. And that's why it's now sitting right here.
Yeah. I mean, this might be, I don't know if you cut this if this is a spoiler, if it's too much of a spoiler, but the fact that this game took a cipher wheel and made a small change to it by reversing the inner letters, it eliminated the problem that cipher wheels in tabletop games usually have, which is you never know whether you have to read the outside in or the inside out. This game, with a tiny change, just eliminated all of that confusion. And that alone was just jarringly good.
I totally agree. Yeah, I'm with you. And I was wondering if it was going to be that prop or I'll call it the end of the trivia prop.
Yeah. Those are the two that we kept.
Yeah. I totally get that. All right. What do you got for him? Question number 4.
Ooh, okay. Let's see what we got. This is the 4th comment. Do we have a reviewer for it?
I think this was an anonymous review.
Okay. Anonymous. Hello. Man, we have Anonymous on the show a lot.
I know. Anonymous is a frequent visitor to our comment section.
Yes. Okay. So this is what the comment says. The 24-hour wait was infuriating. Then after that, we had all but one of the codes deciphered, so it took all of 10 minutes to finish. I totally see how people were smitten, but apart from the reveals, there was nothing that grabbed me. Lots of the fluff and the extra content online that you had to wade through. It may have driven the story, but most of it served no other purpose. The puzzles were mostly following instructions, and the ending felt really rinse and repeat. What was your thoughts?
So some interesting things to unpack there. The first is the following instructions part at the end does ring a little bit true to me. That was one of the things that we really hit home in our review was if you aren't, you have to be doing what the game wants you to do at the moment it wants you to do it. Otherwise, you're going to break it. And if you are used to or expecting or hoping for a free-for-all puzzle game, then that is going to be really annoying. I happen to think that they used that mechanic really, really well. I think that the biggest flaw with it was that the instructions were not clear enough about that fact. It tells you to suspect anything and kind of be observant, and it primes you to do what you traditionally do in a box game, which is start looking at everything. But then it wants you to behave in a different way. And that was actually my biggest issue with the game. Beyond that, I mean, I think there's just a lot of salt in that review. I think that if you can say the statement, I see why other people are smitten with it, then you're to some degree, you're choosing to not be. And that's okay. But like, if you were able to recognize what was good about it, I don't understand at that point what the problem is. It's just saying, you know what, I get it. This one wasn't for me. Mm. Yeah, I think that's...
I'll speak to the interesting 24-hour comment because I think that's pretty polarizing. And I'll speak to my experience. So we did a Hive Mind review of this game, which means that we had a whole bunch of Room Escape Artist reviewers all play and write their own reactions as part of the same piece. So I collect everybody's reactions. I actually collected these before we had opened the game. And the playtime comments were quite interesting. And I was like, okay, this reviewer took 26 hours, and this one took 30 minutes, and I don't know what's going on, which to me was super intriguing. I was like, David, we have to play this game immediately. The reviews are really crazy. But I think that's a really challenging thing. And in most games, I would be really mad about that break time, especially in a world where you play games with other people, you invited friends over, now you can't finish it, they can't come back tomorrow. In a world where, well, in a game that's made for one, it's kind of okay. And when the structure is such that you're so close to the end, as this commenter said, or this reviewer said, when you get to that part, if you have a very busy life and you haven't planned yourself around having exactly as much time tomorrow as you had today, it's going to still work. So I can as a person who plans time and plans time for us and our blog and everything, like, I get it. I know where you're coming from. But I think that the game design here actually made it work, which is surprising.
That's a good take.
No. I agree. I think that if you had a 24-hour gap for a game that was designed for you to play with your friends, like if we got a group of adults together to go and play a game tonight, and that game concludes with come back tomorrow, and everyone's like, well, but we had the babysitter tonight. Mm-hmm. That's a real feel bad experience. It's why we hate it when tabletop games have email us for hints, because you don't get the email for a day and all of a sudden that group of people you were playing with, they're all gone. Yeah, but since it's a one-person game, I don't see the issue.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair. We talked about it a little, and I think our biggest thing is because it was one of the critiques that we cited, and it was just, even for one, it was like maybe a little like heads up, like maybe a little nod to the time boundaries that this may accost you, even as a single person. But I totally see the heart of what you're saying, and I'm on board with it.
Yeah,
I think what I ultimately put as the playtime in our review, and I would have to check this, was something about like an hour playtime, but don't expect to do this in one sitting. So it like hints at it, but doesn't actually tell you what's going on.
Well, the last question we have is, I know we've talked about a lot of different the highs and the lows about the game, but this question number 5 is just, we can obviously go and read the review, and you should go read in the review, because one of the things that we appreciated is it is really well researched, it is really well thought out. But just as a duo, tell us what you thought, like your overall impressions of this game.
We were startled by it. We were not prepared to like it, to be totally honest with you. I was not expecting a game from a card company that wasn't really making games with a celebrity name on it to be something special. And so I went in not really excited about it. The game itself almost leans into that. The beginning is reinforcing the whatever assumptions I had, the game was reinforcing it from the beginning. And then it undermined all of that and took us on this very different journey. And that's cool. That's what I want out of these types of experiences. I want you to build me a world and let me, take me through it, or let me explore it. I don't care which one, but please do let me know which one I should be doing. Like, I'm totally cool with, like, if you put this into a video game context, I'm cool with playing, the levels in sequential order. And I'm cool with you dropping me into an open world and saying, explore, you may find something that's just going to kill you. I don't care which one it is, but make sure I know which one it is.
I think that David captured everything about our experience really well. I think the one thing I'll add is that we played as a duo. And I think there are a lot of questions out there about, because it's called Box One and it's all about it's a game for one. And I just wanted to let people know that you absolutely can play as a duo. What's special about it is that you can play as one. And most games are not designed for that. But that doesn't negate playing it together, and we had a lovely time.
That's awesome. That's a fantastic way to wrap up this segment. So be sure to stick around for our next segment. It's usually called Questions for Creators, but we're going to take it a little different route, and I'm most excited to have some really cool conversations with some really cool people in this next section.
Yes.
So hang on, come on right back with us.
There are some awesome people who make the puzzles we love to solve. This is Questions for Creators.
Zach, listen, man, we need to have a talk.
Okay. What about?
Well, I got your postcard in the mail, and I'm worried, man. Nothing made sense on it, and there was even things in there that implicated you in some kind of larger conspiracy organization.
Yeah, I really don't see what the problem with that is.
Wait, no, this isn't how our ads work. You usually, this is the part where you say, "Oh, it's a game," and crazy Jared, and we do that whole little shtick. But you're not saying that this time, so is this true?
Well, if you're curious to find out what is true, you should head over to theenigmaemporium.com and check out the Wish You Were Here series.
Oh, so it is a game, right? Zach? Come on, man, what's true? Well, welcome back, everybody. As you well know, usually we have a creator on this section, and usually it is not just a creator, but a creator of the game. But to our best abilities, Neil Patrick Harris, he said he had time, and then the schedule moved around. It's hard to pin that man down.
It's okay. He's coming to my birthday party this weekend, so
that's really actually hurtful, because we'll dive into that conversation later. But next best thing, or maybe, like I said, maybe even better, is if you're just tuning in with this, we have David and Lisa from Room Escape Artists with
What?
us. Yes. It's like equal, if not better, in my opinion.
They're pretty cool.
They're pretty awesome, but we're going to take it a different route. Instead of talking more about the game, we really thought this was the right people at the right time to talk about the state of the industry. And the industry, as we're talking about it today, is what our tagline is: at-home puzzle and mystery games.
Yes.
So we're staying at our dining room table, our poorly lit den, our dungeon, if you have one of those where you're playing all of your games. All of those are acceptable places at home.
Yes.
But we really want to dig into what is making this tick, where are we at, where are we heading? And David and Lisa do such a good job of prescribing that for specifically escape rooms. They always have a yearly report where they talk about that. So we're going to do a mini treatise on that right now, and just all four of us talk about where it's heading, where we want to see. And we have some really fun questions in here just to dig in depth into that. But if you don't know them, David and Lisa,
You know it. Come on.
I was testing
It's
you.
not Spirit, it's Spira.
Spira.
Yes.
Don't goof it up. But they are the owners and creators of Room Escape Artists. Wonderful people that
Yes.
their mission is to get out there, and I'm going to use the word be evangelists
Ooh.
for the escape room community. I think that's because
That's
they're
fair
out
words.
they're out there and they're telling people about what they love.
Yes.
And I think that's what they're doing. They do a great job of it. But I want to dive into our questions now. And we have about 6 or 7 of them, and feel free anybody at any time to pop in and talk, but I'm super pumped to talk about this. The first one is just this, is what do we all think the current state of the at-home puzzle and mystery world looks like, and where do we think its trajectory? And before we dive in, I want to pinpoint the date that we are on. This is February 24th of 2021. We are about a year into, or a year like the start of COVID. Okay.
Yeah.
So and I think that is going to frame part of our conversation. But that is where we're at. We are slowly in the US starting to see people have signs of life to where they are emerging from their homes based on what part of the country you're from. But I think that's important to realize, because we did see a boom.
Yeah.
We did see a boom. And a lot of that was a pivoted response from a lot of people that are in adjacent communities to doing this. And let's start the conversation there, setting the time and place for where this is all happening. We'll open it up to you guys first, and then we'll jump in on this question.
The first thing that comes to mind is that the community is growing. The amount of products that I think are being introduced into the community, I think, is growing at a faster pace. So I feel like things are getting crowded. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's just something that we're observing. In the early days, like when we first did our very first tabletop escape room review, which was Escape Room in a Box, the Werewolf Experiment.
Yeah.
We reviewed the prototype of that right before their Kickstarter went live. From that point forward, we reviewed every single tabletop game that pretty much entered the market for years. We can't do that anymore. We don't get sent all of them anymore. And the ones that we do, we're trying to catch up on our backlog.
Yeah.
We've been drowning in them. And
we
feel
get
really bad about
Yeah,
it.
we understand.
We feel genuinely terrible about it. And we're committed to getting the backlog under control.
Our dining room looks like Christmas.
Oh man.
I know we have a closet right
Our
now
closet's
that we have to shut during like work hours, or else we're gonna play something.
Yes.
So, but here to follow up on that, do we think that it's crowded, the current state, because are the boundaries and the people that we're seeking after needs to go, and that's kind of what makes it seem crowded? Or is it just for, because in my opinion, this is it sometimes comes off as niche or a subgenre, what we're talking about, but I really feel like it is more than that, and can be more than that. But is it feeling crowded because there's just so few of us involved in playing these games so far?
I see it as a genre with subgenres. And I actually think that one of the issues that we have is that as a community, we don't pay enough attention to what those subgenres are. And I'll name 3 that I see as the big ones. The first is mass market. The second is small scale or bespoke. And the third is subscription. All 3 of these categories are trying to do very different things.
Agreed.
The mass market ones are really good at production at scale. They tend to do really beautiful graphic design, because if you pay an artist a bunch of money and then you can print tens of thousands of copies of that, you're paying for it. It makes sense. The other thing that they're really good at is profitability. Those mass market games, if you talk to these creators and you get an honest answer, these boxed games have like $2 worth of components in them.
True.
And they sell for and that's the ones that cost like $20 to $30. The ones that cost like 10 to 12 tend to be mostly card stock, and that's probably under $1 worth of material. So they're very good at those things. The small scale bespoke stuff tends to be high-end design, outlandish production, and personalization is a more recent option that we've started to see introduced there.
Yes.
These are strengths that these things can have. And the subscription stuff delivers, can deliver regularly, and also can do a serial narrative, which creates opportunities. All of these things have strengths. They all have their weaknesses. I think that the problems start to emerge when either the puzzles aren't good or weren't tested enough, which can affect all of them,
Yep.
or when one of them steps poorly into the lane of another. What I mean by that is when a small scale bespoke game feels like a subscription game. It feels kind of like when you sign up for a subscription game and you're paying $15 a month for something from a small business, you're going to be more accepting of the paper goods and the lower production value. But when you drop $40, $50, $60, $100 on a small run, small scale bespoke game, and it comes out looking like the subscription game that you also have sitting on your table, it's a big problem.
And I also want to add to that because there are subgenres, it's okay to like one of these and not the others, or to like some more than the others. And I don't think there's necessarily great differentiation in the market right now, which means, and one of the things that we've always tried to do on Room Escape Artists for escape rooms and for any content is talk about who's it for. And I think that there are a lot of people who are entering this who haven't really figured out what's for them yet. And we're at that place in the market where we just have this boom and we're still trying to figure out, what's for who.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
Yeah.
And then also you guys cover a lot, and we don't. We kind of stay away from the digital world. Throw in the digital world that is evolving in front of our eyes right now.
Oh gosh,
it's wild.
It's scary how fast that has evolved. What we saw at the start of the pandemic, the rate of change was astounding. I used to wax poetically about the rate of change that we saw at the start of the escape room industry. The rate of change that we saw between 2014 and 2016 was dumbfounding. But the rate of change that we saw between April and August of last year was frightening. The stuff that was amazing in April, with the exception of maybe Lost Temple, was far less relevant to the diehard community by the end of the summer. It's interesting. It's fun to watch something evolve that fast.
And I would say for the digital genre, there's even more subgenres that are even harder to capture, to articulate what it is, who it's for. This is a huge debate in the hive mind sometimes, is like, how do we even describe what type of game this is?
Or in some cases, what is it?
Yeah. And some of that is that people are creating new things all the time. So it's like, well, we've never seen anything like it before. And it meshes different things together. But yeah, it's just, there are lots and lots of different types. Digital is huge.
Yeah, I totally agree. What are your thoughts, Zach?
Oh man, like the at-home puzzle and mystery world, I think they said it perfectly too. I think it's just like exploded where there's so much content, but it almost feels like there's not enough people playing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the interesting part that I think we all try to do is we want to show more people that there's all this content, but there's so much that like in our closets or on their dining room table, we can't keep up with it.
Yeah,
and it's crazy because it feels like, to me, being kind of newer to it, is that there's a community that plays all these, and they feel almost like there's so much of it. But I feel like there's so many people who just don't even know about it at all, right? So it still just dumbfounds me how that works for some people. And then the trajectory, like, it's these games are just getting more and more content, but as the world kind of tries to go back to a normal state almost too, interested to see how much of it stays, because I feel like some of it is just a pivot for like, you know, different subgenres or different adjacent kind of businesses to make that opportunity. And then when it all ends, they're just going to go back, right? They're going to go back to their escape room worlds or their board games, or if it's going to decline almost in some of the content.
Yes.
But, you know, there are people who've been around for a very long time. And I know Dave and Eliza, they've been able to, you know, reveal all of it over a long period of time. So they have a good idea, but I'm very intrigued to see how that's going to stay.
Well, let's talk about that. Where do we see where is the trajectory going? Like that's a big question that I think a lot of us, ourselves included, are asking.
I mean, when you look at the companies, the escape room companies that pivoted into this out of necessity, you have kind of two big categories of stuff. You have the play at any time, self-administered stuff, and you have the hosted stuff.
Yes.
There's other ways to break that down within those, but let's just take those two. The stuff that you can self-administer, I don't think that's going away, because escape rooms as a business have long had a scalability problem that predates quarantines. It is something that we had been aware of and we had been thinking a lot about, that an escape room company that becomes massively successful is limited by their capacity. And there's a plateau that requires an astounding amount of investment and organizational growth to break through and do it without compromising your product.
Absolutely.
So what I like about these is that, and using CU Adventures as an example, they have produced a line of products that they can continue to make money off of, that they can put an advertisement up in their lobby, and once they're up and running again, they can say, hey, $5, this is yours. They can, right now they're selling them for 10, but they can do like a deal. If you buy it right now as you're leaving your game, you can go home, play this, $5. That's an extra $5 in their pocket. Then they didn't have to do anything else. That's I don't know that they're going to do that, but it's an opportunity, and it's an opportunity for growth that doesn't require employees. It doesn't require
no overhead, really.
Yeah. It's, it requires a little bit of, you pay for a server, you pay for a web domain. That's it.
Yep.
And I think that exists in the tabletop too. I mean, having a shelf of product you can buy on your way out the door to play later, to play at home, to give as a gift, especially something tangible in a box that you can wrap up for your friend. Like, that is an opportunity, and it's the same opportunity. It's not, it's self-administered.
And I know Dark Park in the Netherlands, they started their Dark Park Games branch. They were selling tabletop games in their lobby in the Netherlands to begin with. So this is not something that's totally new for them. This is something that I know they're looking at as a long-term play. So I think that the stuff that scales well, I think is going to fare really well moving forward. The stuff like avatar-driven games, these hosted games, I think are going to almost entirely disappear, except for maybe two instances. One are going to be small-scale things run out of maybe people's homes. Someone set something up in their basement, or you've got something like Nick from why am I going blank?
U-Escape.
Yeah, Nick from U-Escape. You guys were running his stuff, I believe.
Oh yeah, big fans.
Yeah, so that stuff I think has longer runway. The other stuff that I think does is, if you look at like the folks from Project Avatar in the Ukraine. If you have a company that's based out of a country that is not on the dollar, that's not on the euro, that's not on the pound, and they can be selling to audiences that are on those currencies, then the money that they can make can far exceed what they would be able to sell to their local audience.
Not to mention that they can make it at hours that their local audience
absolutely
won't play anyway.
Yeah,
100%.
So I think that there is escape room owners are not getting rich off of avatar games. At best, they're breaking even, because it requires more energy and more effort for lower reward, and it feels like it's less valuable to the players in general. And so they become more price conscious than they are of going to a physical room. And it's just, it's really bad on these owners. I genuinely feel bad for them because what they're selling is a harder to manage product with lower margins for a lower amount of money, and they're still being told it costs too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm on board. I keep coming back to, I feel like we experienced a little bit of a renaissance of at-home entertainment during COVID. Whether like that, it was good that obviously COVID is a bad thing, but jigsaw puzzles were sold out everywhere. A lot of board games did. Like we found ourselves at home again. And I think for, especially I would say the generation ahead of us, there was some nostalgia for the current generation and our generation and maybe the generation ahead of us. They found that there are still veins of the things that they enjoyed at home.
Mhm.
So for the world that we kind of cover, I think this is maybe the kick in the pants that we needed. But we have to, and we'll talk about this later, I think we have to do a better job of getting the word out there about these things, because so many of I'll call them indie designers that don't have you called them bespoke, that don't have these mass markets yet. I personally feel like if they could get there, some of them could destroy. Like the games are that good.
I truly agree, and I think that there are some amazing creators in this space. I think we as a community need to get past the buy everything moment that we're in. I think that there's too much, and we need to become better at sharing information with one another about who this is for. Not just whether good or bad, but like who's it good for, who's it bad for.
Yes.
Because this is going to burn out. The community will burn itself out. The diehards will burn themselves out if they are constantly consuming trash in the hopes of finding a gem here and there.
True.
And that's not good. This is a thing that we see among hyper experienced escape room enthusiasts. At some point, you start seeing diminishing returns on the bottom 2/3 of the market. And so if you want to continue doing this, you have to get better at doing the research. You have to get more comfortable with playing fewer games that are higher value to you. And that's really where Lisa and I are at. We will write negative reviews. We don't want to. We don't want someone to send us a game to review if they don't believe in it. And we don't want them to send us a game to review if they haven't played some of the stuff that's out there. Like if you haven't gone and played, something from Crack and Nut and something from the mystery subscription box, if you haven't played Bluefish or something from Dark Park, like if you haven't played these games before you sit down to create one, you're doing it wrong.
I agree.
Mm.
And that to me is, and in the old days for escape rooms, it used to be like, well, you probably, if you're going to open up a game, you should go and visit a city like Nashville, or you should visit LA, or you should visit New Orleans, or you should go to the Netherlands. You should go and play in one of these really good markets. That's expensive. It's hard. It's time consuming. In tabletop gaming, there's no excuse for, with a couple $100 budget and a couple weekends, you can play through the top tier of this industry and have an understanding before you decide that you're going to build your own game.
That's fair. Let's transition our conversation to our next question. I think it's a really good segue.
Yeah.
And let's talk about our creators. We have been talking to so many creators over these past couple months, getting them to come on the show and just sitting down with them. I can't remember a more passionate, caring community that I've been a part of. And I think that's a really good start. But being caring and being together doesn't get you to the point where I feel like a lot of these creators who are side hustling it can primary hustling it. So this is a question to put out there to our creators is, I want to talk about what we think they are doing really well and where they need to grow, because one of my personal goals is I hope that I do a good enough job in what Zach and I have through playing through this podcast and other things to put people on the map so that this becomes their full-time experience, because they are that good. They are that talented. They have worked that hard.
Yep.
So let's talk about that. What do we think creators are doing fantastic? Don't stop doing these things, but hey, these are things that I would either change or that you're not doing that you need to start doing.
So it depends on the category, but I think we're really talking about this bespoke, this small scale. These like the folks who are really in the Puzzle People Facebook group is really what
I would say
about.
that is our small subscription and our bespoke folks. What do they need to do to get up and get going to the next level?
So I think that, first of all, the Puzzle People Facebook group is, in my experience, the nicest place on Facebook, which might come across as like a backhanded compliment. But I mean that with love. It is by a wide margin the nicest group that I have engaged with on Facebook, period. And I love that. I wish that I actually had more time to engage in Facebook in that group specifically, but really just I love that group. So
agree.
Okay, let's set that aside. I think that these companies are increasingly doing a very good job of figuring out what they are and producing games that push what they are into an interesting direction. Yeah, I think that like if you take Maddox Lost Treasure as an example.
Very good game.
Yep.
Great game, really different game. It's a game that the way that it played appealed more to me than it did to you.
Fair, very fair.
And we both really enjoyed it, and it felt different. It had a different tone and vibe and play style to it. And I think of it a lot like music, where you can have a musician who's amazing in a particular genre and they don't play a different one, but they do incredible and experimental, and they keep pushing boundaries within that genre. That's awesome, and I want to keep seeing more of that. I think that like Kraken Nut is doing that. I think that Rita Orlov from Post Curious just like keeps these people keep killing it. I've already mentioned Bluefish. Like I if I had the time to just play puzzle games entirely for fun, which is weird as it's become a weird job of mine. I don't get to choose everything I play. But like I think we would probably just like mainline Bluefish puzzles until the end of time.
Oh, those newspapers! I love those newspapers.
The Gazette, yes.
Yeah, we don't get to play them very often, but when we do, we love them. So I think that doing more of that, doing more of figuring out who you are as a puzzle creator and iterating on that. How can you take another step in that direction? How can you figure out your own style, your own tone? That's what's key.
And I guess the flip side of that, of what can you do better, is how do you then communicate what that tone is and find the people who will love it, which I think is a repeat of something I said earlier differently. But I think that's...
Yeah, because these games keep falling into this aggregate bucket of tabletop puzzle games or tabletop mystery games. And honestly, we use both terms, but there's really very little differentiation between the two. I never know when I buy something labeled a mystery if it's going to be like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, where I have to like read prose and put together clues and like solve a murder, or if it's going to be tabletop escape roomy and I'm going to solve puzzles that are going to go and eventually cipher out to the name of a person who killed a person.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And people can't always tell me. This is one of the things that I experience, because a lot of creators write to us and ask us to play and review their stuff. And I have a number of questions that I send back to creators to try to dig into what this experience will be, so that I can properly decide if we're the right people to cover it, or how long to plan for it, or any number of things. And people can't always describe their game well to me, which I think is a real challenge. It's a huge marketing challenge. And I think marketing is one of the hardest things for a creator who's in it because they love creating. They're not in it because they love marketing. So that's really hard.
So true.
Which brings me to the next thing that I think these creators need to do, and this is just me projecting because we're terrible business owners. From like Room Escape Artist as a business, like is very professionalized, but we're terrible at actually putting reasonable and intelligent business models onto the things that we create. We're atrocious at it, like laughably bad at it. So when I say these things, they're not like, I'm not saying it judgmentally. Running a business is hard and
Preach, brother.
kind of awful in a lot of ways. It's great and awful. You know, we talk about like the puzzle design and all of that, and all that stuff. You know, the storytelling. We focus on that. That's one tiny part of it. There is all of the production. There is the accounting. There is the legal stuff, which, you know, becomes, the more you scale, the more all this stuff starts to matter. HR starts to become a thing, hiring and firing and all of that, you know, shipping, just dealing with the fact that, like, you know, our postal system broke.
Yep.
All of that stuff are harsh business realities. Customer service.
Yep.
Brexit.
We don't focus on that at all. And that's where you actually, like, that's the stuff you need in place to properly make money, to stop having it be a side hustle and have it be a real job. And it's so hard because none of it is fun.
Yep.
And all of it requires specializations that you could literally go get a college degree in and spend a whole career developing in.
Yeah, I'm with you on some of that, and Zach, I'm interested to hear your thoughts too. From the what are they doing well perspective, I'm encouraged to see some of the newer creators double down on creating more content that is not of the same series, right? And we all know in today's day and age, whether it's digital or physical, content is king. So, like Lisa said, if you can ever get it to a marketing standpoint, because I agree, that's not fun and that's hard. And more than anything, it's expensive if you're going to break in and do it yourself and not be picked up by like a Mattel or somebody like that. But I'm seeing them not just make one thing. Example, we've talked about Maddox. Society of Curiosities, they're doing that. They have the digital game. They have their fairy tales coming out, and then we even got to talk to them about the work that they're doing with the house that's in San Diego, that they've got the rights to, and they're going to make a series off of that as well. Like I know I'm brain farting amazingly right now.
The gun heiress. I
don't remember it.
Is it?
I'm gonna Google it.
Is it Remington or?
See if we can find it.
Winchester Mystery House.
That's it.
The Winchester Mystery House.
Yes.
But yeah, there's 3 different lines of products that I think even some of them are going to be hitting different levels. Same thing with Bluefish coming out with the Gazette, having the online. I think that is a smart model because when you have a diverse set of offerings, you are able to touch different markets.
Yeah.
And people who are just sticking with one product, I know it's so much to even manage one product. Like the people that are doing month to month, I don't know how you're doing it. I don't know how you're making content that fast. But I feel like a diverse offering is something that I'm seeing that I really like.
I fully agree. I also think that, like, thinking about baking in the production into your design process, not just designing the coolest thing you possibly can, realizing, you know, figuring out how you can source all of the components and then going and building it. Like Pink's Gazette is brilliant because it costs next to nothing to actually produce. It's newsprint. And that's smart. That's good. That's good business.
Yes.
Coming up with something that scales reasonably well, where you can do a reasonable production size on the budget that you have and do it in a way where you're narratively justifying it. It feels smart and fun, not cheap and chintzy. Like that's the difference. And that to me is like, that's art. When you go and you decide that you're going to take the limitations that you have and turn them into something that structurally and narratively works and makes you want, as a player, makes you want to spend money on a thing that didn't cost that much to produce. I love and respect that.
I'm with you. Zach, thoughts?
Ooh, okay. It's interesting. I think I thought a little differently than you guys did. Like when I got asked the question. So I'm looking at it a few different ways. So like for mass market, because we're talking mostly about like smaller creators and stuff like that.
Sure.
For some of the mass market, when I started playing some of them, like over the last year, like some of them have a very set formula. And we actually talk about this a little bit with Wild Optimist a lot. Is there's just like a formula that they find that works, right?
Brilliantly
works.
To their credit for Wild Optimist. Yes.
Yes. So you just kind of find a formula that, or like the Unlock series, or some of those games where it's like, okay, this is how the gameplay goes. This is what you'll do. And then you just play it. Right. And then the main format is the same. But what I think some of the mass markets do quite well sometimes is experiment. And I think you guys kind of talk about it a little bit with the smaller people is, kind of figuring out what works well and then experiment how you can make it better. So like, every Unlock game, right, with their app, the game plays differently.
Yes.
Now, the app itself works mostly the same, but, each game has a different theme, which has different music. There's different machine types and different types of puzzles. So you don't feel like you're playing the same game and over again, but with just a different story. It's just crazy how well like those types of mass markets can do that. And it works well. Because sometimes I'm worried that they get complacent. They almost, like I said, this is another like examples like the Disney formula, right? Or like Marvel's is where for a long time, and this is a little off topic, but like Marvel's movie style was the same. It just kind of was the same movie, but you just insert a new villain and new hero. And it kind of got complacent. So everyone at a time goes, okay, well, if I watched, Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2 is the same to an extent, but it's just new hero, new, or new villain, new kind of overarching
Absolutely.
story. So it feels like you're like, okay, it's kind of getting old. I'm waiting for something new. And then a new movie comes out, like let's say Guardians of the Galaxy was the perfect example of this for that style of media, where it goes, everyone's like, I don't know how they're going to have a talking, there's going to be a raccoon that talks, there's going to be a huge tree, and you just don't get it. And it blows it out of the water where it changes everything. And then every filmmaker tries something new and they experiment and it works.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to see that kind of work in the same, in the at-home puzzle and mystery space as well. And then we've kind of seen that with some of the smaller creators too, is where they get feedback from a game and they go, okay, this worked, and I'm starting, and like David Lisa said, they start to get their identity and they're starting to figure out what fully works. Like Angela from Krakenut has kind of made that where she goes, I figured out what works and this is my identity. Now, how can I make the next game just crazy different, but solid,
but still be crack a nut?
Yes. And I find that very intriguing, but also, in a space like this, you have to question or like, how can they get better is like getting people reviews. And I think that's another interesting thing that I hear all the time from creators is like, I get reviews, but it's from the same amount of people, you kind of get like the same type of responses back and forth, and, when we've been able to a little bit with the show is be able to get more feedback or like, Dave and Lisa, obviously with the RuneScape artists, are able to write their review and see how the creators are able to take that knowledge. And sometimes it's hard.
Right.
Like obviously when I get criticism or if I get a review that I don't like, it it hurts.
Because it's close to home right now.
Yes.
It's like in the indie world, and I felt this as a first-time escape room creator, it's your baby.
Yes.
And it can't be your baby forever if it's going to get bigger and grow, and you're gonna let that come in. And that's where I'm coming from a little bit. Is I'm sitting here and I'm like, we've got to learn to take hard feedback and run with it. And then the other thing is that I think the creators really need to do is, and we've talked about this a little bit, but we have to know who we're going after if we're going to grow. We have to know our audience. Yeah. And so many of the games still are these really intense themes or they're high risk themes. And I remember David and I had a conversation about this in one of our Braework rooms. Where are the approachable, low risk, like games that nuclear family can pick up and play and enjoy? And I think we see more of that now because we're going to do a future review on Hink's Elevator. We just played it recently. Mm-hmm. To me, if that game was a tad bit easier, that is the game I'm handing out for a first-time player. hands down. Like there's no question. It's now, in my opinion, it's a little difficult, and in talking with them, I know they didn't create it to be that, but that is to me like, yeah, any mom would pick that up.
Yes.
A fun, like almost Willy Wonka-esque story that I would feel comfortable playing with my kids. But so much of what we do is heavy. It feels like it's for each other. And I feel like that is a stop point. Like Soup, another great example. Anybody can play Soup, in my opinion. Anybody should play Soup. But I'm worried that we are continuing to build games for each other, and that is going to be the stopping point. Well, this is as big as your market can be.
I have complicated feelings on that. I think you're 100% right, but my feelings on it are layered. If you take a look at, like, going back to the music analogy, you take a look at, like, you know, the grunge scene in Seattle in the 90s.
Oh yeah, baby.
You know, these are people who are playing, you know, before this, you know, hit it big and became effectively pop music in its own weird way. These were bands that were creating something together. They were playing for each other. There is something special that can get born out of that. And I think that's what we're actually seeing right now.
Sure.
I totally agree.
I think that to a large extent, there's a ton of value in the creators that we have vibing off of each other and, you know, friendly competing with one another.
Yes.
And learning from one another and making games that they want the others to enjoy, that they want the community praise, because praise from someone whose opinion you respect means a lot more than praise from someone who you don't know.
Totally agree.
At the same time, I feel like, and there's a lot of conversations about, like, reviews and, you know, what the effects are of reviews. And believe me, I've put about as much thought into this as I think anybody could. You know, we're very philosophical about the way that we approach this stuff. I wish that creators cared just a little bit less or about the positivity or negativity of reviews and instead looked at them as market research.
Sure.
Because the fact of the matter is, like, if Lisa and I have a hard time solving one of your puzzles, that's not good.
Right.
I'm not saying we're the best puzzlers in the world. I'm not saying we're the smartest players in the world. There are plenty of times that we have it dumb. But if we can't figure out how your puzzle works after we crack open your hint system.
Yes, I agree. After the hint system, yes.
And and after looking at your hint system, we're still trying to reverse engineer, and our game starts to become trying to figure out why that was the answer. Like, your game is not okay. There is something that is very not okay with that. When we are struggling with your onboarding because the first puzzles aren't doing a good enough job of teaching us how to play, it's a huge problem. These are things that fundamentally our creator community needs to face. They need to figure out where the edges are and which ones to smooth over.
Yes.
And the value of reviews, especially reviews in aggregate, once you start to get more of them, is that you can look at them in aggregate. But in order for you to get there, you have to be able to stop caring quite so much so that you can look at it and say, okay, this person, I think they're a jerk. I wish they didn't phrase this that way. But let me try and figure out what it is they are saying and what it means to me as a creator and to me and to the products I'm putting out into the world. Because if you cannot figure that out, you're going to be stuck in like early days of video games. These games were hard, really hard.
Yes.
For a couple of reasons. One was that people had no idea what they were doing. But the other was that they were deliberately made to be hard because the business model was they were earning their money a quarter at a time. And if they knocked you out of the game, you know, a minute earlier, that money compounded out over the course of the day. Most of these games are not designed to be that hard. So And if you are, you're in puzzle hunt territory. And if you think the money is bad in tabletop escape games, money is even worse in puzzle hunt.
Yeah, that is reserved for we call them the puzzly insane and people that just really want a challenge.
Yeah, but like if you want to be getting into that realm, you can spend the rest of your life just playing through the MIT Mystery Hunt backlog. The puzzles are all available on the internet, and you can solve those until you die and not spend a penny. So like there is a limit to how much these games should be intellectual Olympics. And I think the more we can shed the competitive side of this,
yes,
and get more into the enjoyment and the narrative and the self-discovery side of it, I think that's where the opportunity lies. I think that having a decent level of challenge for the right game can be great.
Yes.
But making games more approachable is where so much more money lives.
Right. And it's hard too, because right now for these smaller creators, your market is other enthusiasts and players. So it feels like it's almost like a double negative. If you make a game that's too easy, your market isn't going to appreciate it off the bat. So it's I realize I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but it feels like the only way to get there is to do that if you want to move beyond the couple thousand people.
Box One proves you wrong.
Oh.
One thing I'll add, it's a little bit of a tangent, but in terms of tangible things that you must do really well, your hint system. Your hint system has to be phenomenal, because if it's not, you lose your audience.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think we've played a lot of games that have had mediocre to poor hint systems. And one of the things that David and I always do when we play a game, even if we play all the way through and never take a hint, then we go back and we pretend we needed a hint and we open the hint system for a number of puzzles and we think, would it have worked if we got stuck? And I think that that's an area that really needs a lot more focus, because unlike an escape room, you're not with your customer. And if on the second puzzle they can't solve it and your hints don't make sense, you're done. There's no rescuing that situation.
Game over.
And they're never going to buy another one.
Yep.
So I think it's something that people need to take really seriously. And it's also, I mean, when done well, it can also be super fun. It can have a character. It can be creative. It can be funny. It can become a part of the game. So it's not like punishment.
Yes.
And hint systems kind of dovetails into another thing that I wanted to say at this point is we put out a post in 2018 called 11 Principles of Tabletop Escape Game Design. And I wrote this in kind of an angry state.
This was like a tirade.
It was, yeah. We came home. We were out at
the Panera of mediocrity.
Yes, the place that we go to play bad tabletop escape games.
Mediocre tabletop escape games and eat mediocre food.
Yes.
Sounds like a lovely evening.
This is a pre-quarantine deal. We played the game that really infuriated me on a lot of levels, and I went home and I wrote 11 points. And to briefly go over them, one is you need an inventory. You need to tell people what they're supposed to find in the box, so if they're missing something, they can get it. Case sensitivity, and this is an ongoing problem that drives me completely bananas.
This came up this week.
Yeah, I mean, it comes up almost every week at this point. Is that the password inputs, you need to figure out how to scrub them. And I think at some point I'm going to probably just put up code on our website that you can grab that just you can use to do this. But basically, if the fact that like I wrote everything all lowercase or all uppercase, or I needed the first letter capitalized, like that shouldn't be a thing. There's not a technical reason why it needs to be. And it's awful when you have the right answer and it doesn't work, and you spend a stupid amount of time spinning in circles because it didn't work, only to find out that you had the right answer 40 minutes ago. Like, there's no possible way to feel good about a creator after they just stole that much time from you.
Yep. I totally feel that. It's and we'll put a link in the show notes up to that because I think that would be
Yeah.
really helpful. One, because I think they're good points, and two, I think it's just funny to see David on a thoughtful tirade.
Yes.
I think we would.
we edited the tirade. It's less
Oh,
tirade.
I would love to see version one.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch, and I think it really holds up. I'm just looking at it now.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I was angry about 2.5 years ago, there's still things that bother me in these games today. Another thing is just like assumed gear. One of the things that I would encourage creators to think about is you don't know where people are playing these games.
Right.
You don't know that they're playing them at home.
Me. Currently, you do.
Right.
I don't have a freezer.
Right.
Right.
But like, you don't know that whether I went out to meet friends and we're playing in a Panera, and that's my experience. Like, you as a creator, you sell this thing, and it becomes my experience at that point. You lose total control over it. So you have to put together a package that controls as much of that experience as you possibly can. And sometimes that may mean making it very clear to people up front, play this at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or have scissors.
Yeah.
You're gonna need water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You're going to need to light something on fire.
Yes.
It's very frustrating to play a large part of a game and then realize that we're missing something that we can't finish it because we don't have water.
Yes. And I want to interject here just for the creators that I know will listen to this. That everything that we're saying, I think it has a chance to come off critical in a mean-spirited way. I think it's okay to be critical as long as we're trying to be constructive. Know that the reason we're having this conversation is because we are figuring out for ourselves how to get things out here, and these are just well-researched, thoughtful things that we love. You guys, your creations are awesome. Like, we've enjoyed them. We're fans of them. We want to see it. We want to see it go to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I fully agree. And like for me, like when I get fired up, I can sometimes sound angry. And like to some extent, where that comes from is as a reviewer, I will write a negative review, but I actively hate it.
Yes.
We have as a website foregone a fair amount of traffic because we don't like tire fires.
Yes.
Back to being bad business people.
Right. We're not fond of stirring up anger and controversy for its own sake. And we don't like to review stuff that's bad. And especially in a space like this where you have these passionate creators, like it breaks my heart when someone sends me something and I honestly just think it's trash.
Yeah.
Like we put one out not that long ago and it was from a creator who I genuinely like. I wanted to, and I liked elements of what they did, but so much of the fundamentals were so flawed that there was no possible way to go and say that this is something that you should buy. Because that's the other thing is that like we want to give constructive and kind feedback to the creators, but at the end of the day, we're not doing anybody a service if we're encouraging people to buy something that they're not going to enjoy.
100% agree. 100% agree. And it's so towing that line is so hard when you're because I'm always fearful of coming off like the reviewer in Ratatouille. And I think that's like a generally well thought out, meme of the larger culture of that. But I really don't, and Zach doesn't either. We have zero interest in wanting to degrade anybody's creation or their thought processes. I have so much fun on the show when we get to talk about an amazing game that we just played. And then, like I said in a previous episode, and I go to Target and I talk to the lady at the checkout line and I say, you need to play this game. Like, that's what I love about this, when I get to be the spokesperson for what is great and upcoming and a win. And but at the same time, yes, I feel like our roles in this community is we've got to tell you what we honestly think. And that's why I've been looking forward to this episode so much, is because all of this is in love and in research and in thoughtfulness, so that we can keep continuing to do what we love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I would rather talk a potential creator out of making something that is going to fail than give them a bad review.
Yep.
And he has.
Yeah, I have. And that's why when I say like go and play Box One and Solve Our Shirts and Witchery Spell and Maddox Lost Treasure and Root of All Evil, like when I go and I tell you to play that stuff before you sit down to start making your own thing, I'm telling you because I want you to either take that opportunity to figure out, to calibrate yourself so that you can make something that's on that level or better.
Yep.
Or say, you know what? This isn't for me. I'm just going to go and enjoy these games. Or I'm going to go and do something different where I can excel. I just don't want people risking their finances, spending their time on something that is dead on arrival.
Yep, and that's hard to be the bad guy sometimes. We totally get it. We're I don't even feel like we've really left a super scathing review in our episodes thus far, and I know it's coming. Like it's coming down the road where we have to be a little more critical than we want to be.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to hear from the other side. But yeah, creators, if you're out there listening to this, like if we could figure out a way to get all of you to succeed, that's our goal. Right, because then we would just be playing games, giving our honest opinion, and it would all be A pluses. But the growth does not happen through constant positive encouragement.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. That's not how humans work. That's not how this world works. And so hear us out. We think you're doing great things, but especially to what David and Lisa are saying, like hear us out. Like you have the potential to grow, but there's a couple of changes that are just going to have to happen if the market is going to grow and your share of that is going to grow. All right, let's bump us on. And I think we actually covered a lot of our future questions in that. But I want to...
We can be more brief.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And we were destined to do that. That's just our level of passion amongst these four people. I want to go down to a question about digital experiences. We'll do this and we'll do a couple more because I know we're a long-winded, passionate bunch. But it's just a really simple question is, in the time that we live in, what we've seen, do we really think that you have to have a digital part to your experience to move forward and to be one of the big dogs?
No. Might be a surprise answer, but no, I don't think so. I think that it can help in some regards. I think that, my answer is I hope not.
Sure.
Part of the appeal of a lot of these things is that they aren't digital. That's certainly part of the appeal of tabletop real life escape rooms, is that they're not digital. I think that one of the things is we start talking about producing a community and producing products that live on into the future. Digital starts to become a risk long term with technology becoming deprecated. Having to maintain websites or apps far into the future starts to become costly. And also, depending upon your mode of thinking and what you want your games to be, do you want someone, is this a game that you want someone to play now or never? Or is this a game that you want someone to be able to, give to their friends 5 or 10 or 15 years from now?
Yes.
If that's the case, the digital component is almost certainly going to break your game over the long haul in one way or the other. But I will say, I want to see digital done well or not at all.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. No, I agree. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of excuse out there for poor digital at this point in the game.
Yeah. And I'll add that if this were only digital, I don't think David and I would be where we are today. What we fell in love with was in-person escape rooms. And we were both tabletop game players before we met. And that's what we really loved. And I work in front of a computer all day, and I don't want to play more games in front of a computer. I want to go out. And obviously this year hasn't been a year where we are going out and doing those types of things. But I certainly hope that there is a future where you can focus on those types of entertainment, tabletop or in real life of other kinds, and not have to have a digital component.
My sticking point as a player, and I talk about this all the time, is I think it's so important for a game to have, and we don't review games that don't have a solid level of tangibility
Mhm.
for home play, because I think one of the limitations when you're talking about entertainment options, whether they're in your home or outside of your home, is exactly what Lisa was saying. Like, you're away from a screen, and your ability to bring great tangibility, aged things. We see relics. We see, like we were talking about earlier, like a cool cipher, like, and then for you to be able to retain that and have that, like it's yours, it was part of your experience. I just think it's invaluable, to the point where some of our favorite games don't have any.
Yeah.
Don't have any, and I think there's room to continue to do that so well. Does that mean different things for your business model? Absolutely. Absolutely, it means different things for your business model, to the point where I'd say it's probably more difficult to do that, because digital, in a sense, has the opportunity to be cheaper than continually producing fine physical items,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we see mass market versus some of the bespoke. But I like seeing digital done well, and I
Mhm.
agree with that. But man, you can win people over with a surprise physical aspect that they are not expecting. And as we've been talking about, that's box one. That's box one, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the digital aspect of games can be done quite well. And some of the games we've talked about on other episodes, one of my favorite parts is almost the digital aspect, if done very solidly.
Agreed.
There's been games we've played where the website or the online part ruins it, or makes me feel less like immersed in the game almost. So like, and then the other part, which you guys have brought up to an extent, which is tangibility with items, is like, nothing feels cooler to me than when I show up to our front door of our office and there's a black mysterious box on it that it goes with Root of All Evil, right? And I go, what's this? And I stare at it. Jared will tell you this. I do this every day. I'll go in there and I'll see it, and I'll see just the side of the box, and I go, okay, this is interesting. I'll read on top of it. I see there's like, okay, I don't know what it is in there that actually has this, but it almost looks like there's like moss or something on the side, and I can see it just through the thing, and it intrigues me so much that I go every day, I want to open that so bad.
We do. We both have our games that we're not allowing ourselves to play yet, because we have, you understand, games that you've promised to review that you've got to get to first. But it is like, I don't know. Is it just being human and having the ability to sense and touch that draws us to those things? But obviously, you need a high level of that in an escape game. And in good ones, you get that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the at-home world, I just can't help but be drawn to, maybe it's in the marketing, but when I can see it,
Yeah.
that's when there's a connection made for me as a consumer. All right, let's go ahead.
So I feel similarly to physical goods as I do digital ones. I feel this is kind of a philosophy for all of it, is do it well or don't do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
It's fair.
Don't send me cheap tchotchkes that have nothing to do with the puzzles just to make something tangible.
Agreed.
Like, tangibility in and of itself is not inherently valuable. It's what you do with the tangible thing. And I think that's, like the moss in Root of All Evil, like, genius.
Yeah.
Genius.
Purposeful. Let's call it purposeful tangibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just whatever it is you're doing, do it with intent.
I like it.
And I think an add-on to that is, I mean, ask yourself, will I want to throw it out? Because we've opened a lot of boxes that had, sort of a cheap tangible component that sort of fit the story. And at the end, it went in the trash. The game's not, you can't give the game away. You can't recycle the component.
Yep.
And it's not something that we want to put on the shelf over here and have around. It's not something we want to pick up. And so I love the tangible components that become keepsakes, that become memories of that game, of the experience we had, that we might, use again for something else, that are really cool. Those we keep and those we love. But it's unfortunate when it's there just to be tangible and it's actually trash.
There are times where I actually feel bad when I'm dumping a lot of stuff into the garbage after playing one of these games. And that's a thing to keep in mind, is that is in a lot of cases, the last memory that someone has of your game is throwing away all of the junk.
Yep.
That's not great.
Sobering thoughts there.
Not to be negative.
Yeah, no. but it's a thing when you stop and you think about, like, if you're really wanting to grow in this space, you have to think about the product life cycle. That's, from the player learning about it to their purchasing and what's the buying experience, to the game arriving at their doorstep and what is that like, to them opening it up and beginning to play. What is it like to begin to play? What is it like to figure out, once they figured out how to play, how that grows from there? What is it like when it ends? And then the last question you really have to ask yourself is two. What is it like what do they do with it when it's done? What is that life cycle like?
Yep.
And what is it that they're going to remember? What is it that they're going to tell people or not tell people? Are they going to remember? Are they going to forget that it existed? Or is there going to be something special in it where they're going to be like telling their friends, you have to go play this so that we can talk about it?
Yes.
If you're not thinking through all of those elements, then there is a component of your product that you are neglecting.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Do it. I like if you're going to do it well, do it with intent, do it purposefully, and you'll probably have a lot of success with that. There isn't a model out there, I feel like, is what we're saying, that you should have this many digital items, this many physical items. If you're trying to look for a formula without expressing your creativity and intent on that game, this is not going to work well for you. Even with the best marketer in the world, it has an end timeline for when it will work out. I think that's what we're saying. All right, let me jump in. I got two more questions for us to round out our podcast here today. This one I think is a fair question, because we have to talk about the industry at large, and we have to realize that all market shares are not created even and equally. It does not matter what industry you're in. This is true.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to know is, should we all buy into the trickle-down model of players from larger companies? And what I mean by that, and I'll use me as an example. Our escape room here in Tennessee is on the doorstep of one of the largest escape room companies, internationally, nationally. I don't know how I'm going to phrase
Definitely
that.
Nationally.
Definitely nationally. And they have three locations less than 20 miles from where my smaller market escape room is. And on the onset of thinking about that, I used to be really frustrated with that, because I thought they're taking all of my players. Like, it was a struggle. But then thinking more through it, conversations with you guys, it's the best thing in the world for me. This is the best thing in the world for me. But I want to talk about why that is. And do we believe that is the case in our at-home world as well? Are we seeing players trickle down from our larger companies? And with that is, if we believe that is true and that can funnel more players to some of our smaller companies, should we hold these larger companies as a community to a higher standard?
That's a fun question.
It's loaded. It's definitely loaded.
So to set the stage here further, the escape room market in Nashville and the surrounding area where you are is, in our experience, completely unique.
Mm.
So to paint a picture for you, Nashville proper is basically a crater of the escape room world. And in the middle of that crater are three branches of the escape game, the home offices as well. Most of the other escape rooms in Nashville proper are really not worth visiting. And the escape game has an iron grip on the downtown area.
100%.
Yep.
In the surrounding area, along the periphery of said crater, you have kind of an arc of suburbs that have a ton of amazing ma and pa escape room companies. And it's a really creative, fun, collaborative market.
Yes.
The escape game, as a dominant player, historically has been very good at creating habitual escape room players, and not just players of the escape game, but people who go out and play other stuff. And we became aware of them years before we played because half the journalists and enthusiasts we ever encountered who were into escape rooms, we would ask them, what was your first game? They would always say, oh, we played the Nashville room at the escape game.
Yes.
That was like, it was such a common answer that it became almost a joke. So the escape game has consciously strived to foster growth within the larger escape room community. And I know that they have because we've had conversations with their management about this.
Yes. They're good dudes.
They're genuinely just wonderful human beings. And they gave the keynote opener at our convention this past year. They did a brilliant job with it. That's not really the norm for big escape room companies. I'm not going to name names, but that's not when you typically say, when people are generalizing about escape room chains and franchises, they usually go and say a whole bunch of negative stuff and then probably put an asterisk and say none of that applies to the escape game. They're a weird unicorn in this space. So all of that is a long lead into the mass market is not part of this community for the most part. Some of the creators are.
Yes.
You'll have, like Nicholas Cravata, who's, done like the break, the break and stuff and the Think Fun stuff. He and his wife. You have whose name is eluding me. Rebecca, that's it. Rebecca Blue. When Juliana and Ariel, these folks are engaged. Actually, some of the people from Exit are they're more plugged in than I think the community is aware of. But
both on the creator side and the marketing side for Exit.
Yeah, but the companies themselves are not. The companies in sum total are not. They don't care. This is a product line that they're not really aware of or care about the impact that these things have on the larger escape room community. They will put out these games as long as they are profitable. And if they see a substantial dip in sales, they will stop putting them out and they will move on, and they'll never pay any attention to it. They will not care whether they flood the market and strangle to death an entire industry. They will not care on a corporate level. That's not saying that about the creators themselves.
Yes.
But so that's I think the big thing to keep in mind is that, like, when you talk about Bluefish, these are people who are invested in this community. When you talk about a Mattel, this is a company that is invested in toys and games.
Sure. And not like they're horrible people, but they're a bottom line company.
It's just that their priorities are not the growth and sustainability and nurturing of a community.
Yes.
In the same way that, like, Juliana and Ariel, who create games for Mattel, they are. Yeah, so, like, that's totally I think that's something that gets lost in the conversation. I want to make sure that that's framed up. So large companies are good at distribution. They're good at production. They are not necessarily, they're only going to respond to stuff that affects the bottom line.
Absolutely.
So if we review bomb them when they put out a faulty product that it's really easy to, jump sequence and break the game, or has an insufficient hint system, when we affect their sales on Amazon, they will take note of that. What they will do with that, who knows? Will they cancel the product line? Will they decide, maybe we should actually invest a little bit more time and money into beta testing? Don't know. But the only way to affect them is to affect sales. And one of the things that I find really interesting about the tabletop scene is that, like, taking Unlock and Exit as examples, these are two product lines that just feel like they are like the communities who enjoy them feel like rival houses. There are Unlock people and there are Exit people, and there are a handful of us in the middle who are like, I see pros and cons to both. But for the most part, like, especially when you step out of the puzzle community and into like the tabletop, the tabletop gaming world, when you look at like tabletop review sites, they either love Exit and hate Unlock, or vice versa.
Weird. But
yeah,
we see it a lot.
We see it all the time. I think that these things appeal to different people in different ways, and that's okay. But Tonopal's treasure from Unlock is super easy to break, and that's ridiculous.
And I do think that to the question about, I mean, should we hold them to a higher standard? We should hold them to a standard. We have to play and review their games as well. We have to say, Tonopal treasure is bad. It is broken. Don't buy it. Because if someone Googles it, because their friend mentioned it, because they heard of the series, like just don't buy that one, because you'll never play another one and you'll never investigate this genre again. We want those companies to breed repeat players, even though that's not their goal.
Yes.
So we want to call out those products that are subpar, because we want to make sure that people don't accidentally end up choosing a subpar product, having a bad experience, and never coming back to the whole genre.
True.
I also think that for these mainstream games, the easier ones are almost always better.
Yep.
Like for Exit, Sunken Treasure is one of their easiest games, and it's a delight. In my opinion, it is just a delightful game to play. One of the problems, though, and escape room owners who have ever dabbled with, I don't know if you guys ever created difficulty levels or gave difficulty ratings to your games.
We, for the most part, have just like compared them to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've found that like the newbies, the muggles come in and are like, what's your hardest game, bro?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's very common.
Sure.
Let's go crush that.
Skinner's box. Yeah, we want that.
Right. We're all smart. Put us in your hardest room. And that is the absolute wrong way to have a good time for almost every team.
Yep.
And even us now, when we go and we play multiple games of the company, we will actively try to play their easiest game first so that we can get to know their style of play and have an easier time in the harder games.
Yes.
Because we want to be able to enjoy. We don't want to we want to be able to take in the experience. And I feel the same way about these tabletop games, is that if you, and this is one of the things that's really hard about it, if you let the uneducated player decide based off of difficulty, they will choose the hardest game out of pride more often than not and screw themselves in the long run.
Yep, that's fair. But we continue to do it because it feels like it's necessary for marketing or distinguishing product from product. And I agree, it's not helping anybody out there do that well, because it's honestly, it's so arbitrary. Like, I want to see a company show me like your grid for how you justify a cipher process puzzle versus a riddle on the international scale of difficulty. I would love to see that report.
I mean, it's not possible to really quantify this stuff, which is why like we've have a long and distinguished history of not quantifying our reviews.
Same.
Which I think some people get really annoyed with, but we're committed to it.
But I like that, because you get the good. I like how y'all get the good, you get the bad, and you get the middle ground too. Like, we're not, it could be this or that. And I like that a lot. But the reason I put this question in here is because, and it may be, I think I'm projecting a little bit, if I'm being honest, is I want to draw those people back into our community if they're not already there, because I just see it as I see it as beneficial having experience like you guys talked about, a unicorn of a company around me. And I do think that there is a lot of value, especially like we talked about, like if we're looking at market share in this world that Zach and I are focusing on, you've got Hunt a Killer, you've got Mysterious Package Company, and maybe a few others that you would throw in there. But like, I would argue that between those two companies, if we're talking about throughput of players, they easily have, I'm gonna say 70% of the attention. That may be too much, but that's just in looking and researching, I feel like they own that much of the space right now. And it's just hard for me because I want to see that trickle down to other great creators who, in my opinion, are creating stuff that is better than what those mass marketers have.
I mean, I think that Exit, Unlock, Escape Room in a Box, I don't know what their numbers are. Think Fun,
Sure.
they're moving a lot of product.
Okay.
They're moving way more product than a Hunt a Killer is or a mystery package.
Sure, and those kind of like round out like our three categories that we talked about, right? Like bespoke. If we're talking bespoke, that feels more NPC. If we're talking subscription, that's Hunt a Killer. But I agree with you. The ones you just mentioned for mass market, 100%. That collectively.
The challenge, I mean, this has always been the escape room challenge, is that these things get defined for an individual by the first game they play.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
that's why it's cool to be in a satellite orbiting the escape game. Because for most people, under most circumstances, they do a bang up job with their service and they present a quality product. There are other cities, and I'm not going to name names. There are cities that are pretty dead because there was an early company that established themselves and they were able to get enough, get the overwhelming majority of media attention, push up the prices on Google and Facebook ads, and dominate the sales. And these are companies that were fine with getting one and done clients.
Yep.
And they have effectively strangled out these markets. So when people ask us about like what's the state of the U.S. escape room industry, we're like it's regional. There is no U.S. escape room industry. There's a New York industry, and there's a Boston industry, and there's a Nashville industry, and there's a D.C. industry. These are all different markets, and they're all behaving very differently based off of the patterns that we see within them. And I think it's the tabletop market is very much the same. It just happens to have a really lovely community attached to it that I think over the long haul, if they're able and willing to share outside of themselves, will grow more.
That's great.
And so I think the message to players who are listening, whether you're a player creator or just a player, is invite somebody who you don't know if they're going to like it. This is kind of new. Even these days that, you've got to each buy a copy of it and then play together over Zoom or try to set up a camera and take photos of it. It's much harder, but invite your friends to try a tabletop escape game with you who have never done this before, because that's really the best thing we can all possibly do.
I'll add, I think that escape rooms and the puzzling community in general is a group of people who are not keen on sharing things on social media.
Mm-hmm.
They might share within a narrow space, but they're not people who readily click like buttons and click share buttons and click retweet. This is something I'm not making this up. We've put out 2 days ago, we passed 1,900 posts on Room Escape Artists.
That's awesome. Wow.
One of the big challenges that we've had, and I'm just this is actually the first time I'm vocalizing it in public, is that we have this diehard community of people who are very engaged with the content. They don't share it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't put it out there. And that's fine. I don't want to force anyone to do it. But what I do want to go and ask people is think about it. If you like something, put it out there more, because, share this podcast, share a game that you really like, share a positive review of a game that you really like. Put this stuff out there more, because that is how we will foster more of a community. Your friends, the people, if you like this stuff, there's a good chance the people that you are connected to will enjoy some aspect of it as well. And that's one of the things that I think that we are as a community lacking. We're very good at talking to each other.
Yep.
We're very bad at talking outside of our community.
the power of weak connections is so powerful. I mean, I was reading something
Yeah,
about
strength of weak ties.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
close with those words.
Yeah.
But I mean, so many people get jobs through the strength of weak ties. But also, this community can grow, and any community, any interest group can grow through the strength of weak ties by people sharing, and somebody sees it and they're interested and they click and they buy the game and they get hooked. Or even if they don't get hooked, even if it's something that they do 3 times a year,
Right.
that's more than never.
And that's what's crazy to me is like we're not talking about like either something that is boring like, man, I just invented this new pipe for plumbing and it's it's going to revolutionize like, or we're not talking about something, especially in our day and age, that's like politically divisive. We are talking about some of the coolest things, man. Like, this is what we're doing with our livings in our free times. We're building puzzles and mysteries, and like, no one is gonna fault you ever for, hey, I got this cool treasure. Like, and I think that's a big reason why I'm here, is because like I feel like or we're trying to be some of the few people that are waving flags publicly. Like I'm happy putting on the Chuck E. Cheese costume and going out to the street right now and dancing to try to get people in the door, if that's what this podcast is going to amount to.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were so happy to have you guys entering the fray here in this way, because like we've been doing this since 2014. We take every single journalist who has ever written to us, from we don't care how small a news outlet they are. We get on the phone and we give them as much time as we need to make sure that they actually understand what this stuff is, and they don't just publish a whole slew of stupid cliches that don't actually apply. And that's it. We need people out there, and it can't just be the podcasters and the bloggers. It needs to be the community who is going out there and representing themselves to their world, to their friends.
Yep.
Because that is how we grow, and that's how we puncture past the barriers of this being small and niche. And when we do, the community is going to change.
Yes.
There's going to be stuff that those of us who have been here are going to look back with, nostalgically and say, man, I kind of wish miss the old days when everybody, when Angela was just sending puzzles all over the world because no one else was doing it.
I miss the Secret Santa group.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we're going to miss some of that. But what we gain by creating a broader, stronger community where all of our creators are able to actually make a living off.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
We don't, like, Lisa and I we don't make our living off of Room Escape Artists. It eats up every waking moment that we're not doing our regular jobs or maintaining our home. But we do it because we love it. And we do it with the hope that maybe one day, at least one of us, probably me, will be able to just do this full time. But there is there's been no quid pro quo. There's been no get rich quick. We still pay for a staggering amount of the content that we consume in this space.
Yes.
And we even more now in the last year, because we haven't really wanted to ask for discounts and things in the way that we were, and when things were all booming. It's hard, and it's a lot of work, and that's just on one side of it. We want everybody in this space to be able to earn a living.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fulfilling, I think, is the word. That gets me excited.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me and us put our time and money into, like you said, like something that I doubt this podcast will ever be profitable. I know there's people listening right now that are, but
and a shocked Pikachu.
Yeah, it's just like, but it's just to reiterate, everything we're saying is just because you guys, I think more than anything, you guys, you creators, and you people who are playing and helping these companies, you inspire us, and we owe a great debt to you all, not just in the games that you send us, but the time and the thought that you put us. And we want to make this worthwhile for you, not only as reviewers, but as people that want to spend our time, our short time that we have here, going out and telling other people about this. So this has been great. I got one more question for everybody, and then we'll wrap this up. This will be by far our longest episode, but it's in my opinion pure gold.
Oh yes.
No, that's us. That's totally on us. I want to ask this. I feel like we've touched throughout like who we're digging on, what we really like so far. I want us to look forward to something that you've backed on Kickstarter that you haven't received yet. What are we all looking forward to? If everybody had to say their one game that you're like, man, I'm hungry to play this and I'm so excited that they do this and this is coming out. Maybe if it's even a whisper that we're allowed to talk about, what is that thing for everybody?
Well, I mean, there's no ethical way to do this, so I'm just gonna do it. I mean, so Spectre and Vox is something I'm super excited about, and I backed on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I know where this is going.
It is the technology that it's running on is the Loctopus Studio app that we have created for Amazon Alexa, and by we, it's actually a separate company. It's not Room Escape Artists. We have a different partner in this, and we created a spoken word, a framework for making spoken word escape games. And we had invited Nick Moran, who is one of my all-time favorite game designers. We had invited him to create a game on Loctopus. And he said, I don't have time. I'm working on this crazy dollhouse thing. And he said, can I see the thing you want me to use, you wanted me to work with? And so we sent it to him. And he wrote back and said, can I use this for my dollhouse game? I want to use it to advance the plot and deliver all of the narrative stuff. And I said, it wasn't designed for that, but if you think you can, please don't bring shame to our houses. I'm super excited to see what Nick is doing with Spectre and Vox, with the complete and full disclosure that we're making a stupidly small amount of money off of that. We get, like $1 or something off of each game sold. It's not even covering the investment we made in the product itself, in the Loctopus product itself. But I am excited. I'm really excited to see this thing that we created get put to use in a way that we never imagined, and being done by a creator who I just hold in such high regard.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's all make sure we say something different. I think we could all agree in a general sense, Spectre and Vox is going to be dope.
Yes.
We can't wait either, but everybody give me something. Everybody,
but remember, hype can kill.
Hype can kill. I
True.
know. Hype can kill. Managing expectations is important for Kickstarter. Let's keep that in mind. Who else has someone? Zach, let's go to you. What are you waiting on?
Ooh, this is hard. Okay, so I can only talk about things that are coming out soon. Or can I
Yes.
talk about any game?
No, yeah, what are you looking forward to?
Ooh, that's hard. I'm trying to think of other games that are coming out soon that we haven't received that I'm excited for. Like, there are games. I'm just trying to think of what's coming out next.
I'm thinking through like Emerald Flame, or the Labyrinth, or
having played Emerald Flame, it's worth being excited about.
Be
Ooh,
excited.
Emerald Flame. I did forget about that. Is Mother Frankenstein out yet?
no.
That's one I'm kind of intrigued in, to be honest, because I remember looking at that one a good bit, and I was like, this could be pretty cool.
I've read y'all's review, and I'm sorry to use the hype word, but you got me hyped on. Like, you got me excited about it.
It's cool. I mean, these companies are doing really cool stuff. There's so much.
Yeah, I feel like the game I'm really excited about right now hasn't been announced yet, so I can't talk about it. Sorry.
Lisa, you got to give us something tangible to hold on to. I'm not saying spill the beans, but give us something else, because now I can't sleep at night having you said that. Pick something else.
I think it'll be announced soon.
Hold on, I'm gonna mute. Yeah, it's not announced yet.
All right.
I don't know if you
Wait,
can,
wait,
if you can say
Lisa-
anything that can be said. I don't.
we can't say anything
Lisa
yet.
is prophesying that there is a game from a company coming that we should all be expectantly waiting some news on.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, I don't know when the news comes out, but at the very least, I can say that we will be talking about it on episode 3 of the Reality Escape Pod. That's so that's a thing.
Okay. I
I'm
can
excited.
look forward to that. I can look forward to that all day. I'll wrap us up and say I'm so intrigued by Labyrinth. We backed it. I think we even went big and went for one of the super deluxe Mondo, all of that. And it's purely just the scale and the promises made by them. I want to see it all come true. And just following them, like the amount, again, the physicality. I love the physicality. It seems like there's going to be a lot of that. Will it play out? I have no idea, but they definitely won me over on the front end and getting me excited about their product. So we'll see. Jury's still out.
Yeah.
We'll be excited to do an episode on that, but that's what has me like looking forward and getting excited. And I know we could all list a dozen more games. Like we nerded out when we found out that Unlock was doing Star Wars and things of like, come on, how cool is that? That's awesome.
Yep.
Like, but so there's plenty of out there. But let me open it up for anybody with some closing thoughts, and then we will lock down this episode in the record books. Any last thoughts from anybody?
I feel like we've said a lot. We've covered a whole lot of ground.
We have.
I think really just respect and appreciate what you guys are making here, and we're really excited to see your podcast evolve. And just it's great to start. It's great to see someone looking at this specific part of the industry, and really just go nuts with it. And that's exciting to us as some of the lone people who have been regularly covering tabletop. And even then, it's never been our full focus.
Yes.
Really excited to see more voices in this space. So thank you.
And I always feel like we haven't done as good a job with it as I would have liked to, because it's not our main focus. So and that also just makes me especially excited that you guys are here and are covering it.
Yeah, we feel like when we get to cover it, we cover it as well as we possibly can, but it's just not necessarily timely. And that's something that we've been consistently disappointed in ourselves about.
Got you. Well, those are super kind words.
Yeah, very much appreciate it.
We're excited to just even have you guys on the show, because we have a lot of respect and admiration for you and have for some time. So, but we're going to try to do our best to love on a very specific community and to journey with them and to hand out. But this has just been fun, because we know you guys have been talking and doing these games for a while now, and we've been playing them, but only have, as of late, obviously been really focusing and reviewing them. But it has been an honest pleasure. I'm excited to see with y'all's podcast too, where that goes. Speaking, as we talked about earlier, y'all, when you guys talk, people listen, and to know how much you guys care is exciting. To attend what should have been an in-life recon, but to do it digitally, and that was amazing. I cannot wait to be there in person and celebrate, what could have been, but should have been. But it's fun to watch you guys grow and to now be, we'll call ourselves colleagues, fellow sufferers maybe along the way. It's really fun, and I couldn't ask for more than a great conversation from you guys on this episode. So thanks so much for being a part of this and being so excited about it.
Thank you for
hosting us.
Yeah, we're just really happy that we were able to be here.
Awesome. Well, that is going to wrap us up today for our first 7-hour episode.
Yes.
That was so much fun.
That honestly was a big blast.
And I know we covered some hard topics, but good things in life require some difficulty. Yeah. We hope that everybody out there on behalf of Room Escape Artists and us hears us say that We could not be more honored to be a part of this community and to have
Yep.
you guys trust us with your games. We want to push and join forces with you as we make this more culturally relevant.
Yeah.
That's our goal. That's why Zach and I started doing this. But if you're not looking at the Room Escape Artist blog, you should be. Their new podcast coming out. We will be listening to it. You
Yes.
should be listening to it. We all have commutes. We all have different times where we can listen to it. And it sounds like they have some really great content. Much love to them. We'll be excited down the road to have them back on the show and do some creative things with them.
Yes.
But a couple of things. Yeah, absolutely. Subscribe to what they're doing. Subscribe to what we're doing. We would
Yes.
love for you guys to put us on a regular download schedule. That helps us. That's going to help us reach a broader audience, which is one of our goals.
Yep.
Please do that. As for Box One, you can find that at Target on
Yep.
their website. And coming soon, international purchase options with unridiculous shipping.
Yes.
So be looking for that as well if that's a game that you still want to play. But that's going to wrap us up today. Follow us on social media, Puzzling Company. Puzzlingcompany.com is about to have a huge renovation.
Yes.
That's coming. And next week, we get just to keep talking to more great people.
Yep.
The ladies from Wild Optimist.
I'm very excited about that
This
game.
is great. It's like a who's who of tabletop royalty.
Yes.
And we couldn't be excited to have both of them on and talk about one of their creations that's been out for a minute now.
Yeah.
So that's really going to be exciting. And then just look forward to the next couple of months. We have some really cool people coming on to talk about their materials. And just thank you. I don't think we have said thank you yet. Thank you for those of you that are already listening. You don't
Yes.
know how meaningful that is for Zach and I to come in. We check the numbers every day because
Yep, I do.
we're data-driven people. And to see that people are actually listening to us is meaningful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We hope to do a good job in return for everybody listening to us. That's going to wrap us up. For Jared and Zach, this is Puzzling Company.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Puzzling Company and online at puzzlingcompany.com. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, keep puzzling.
This has been a Rogue Media Network podcast.